A lightweight Swedish fighter humiliates America. But the story behind that drama isn't a single dogfight or a secret scorecard. It's a quiet revolution in how air power is designed, trained, and sustained. Our film opens on a cold Swedish road. Not a runway, an ordinary stretch of highway. Snow is pushed aside. A handful of conscripts roll out fuel, arm a jet, and, within minutes, a single-engine fighter roars back into the air. This is the JAS-39 Gripen, and this is the scene that rattles the old playbook. Gripen's origin story is not about building the biggest or the fastest. It's about winning the logistics war. Sweden knew it would never outspend a superpower, so it outthought one. The aircraft is intentionally small, easy to service, and ruthlessly modular. You don't need a giant base. You need a road, a truck, and a crew the size of a hockey team. From that philosophy flows a long list of advantages: rapid turnarounds, dispersed operations that are hard to target, and sortie rates that keep the pressure on. Now, step inside the jet. Gripen's designers gambled that the future wouldn't be about a lone wolf ace, but a pack animal in a data-rich world. The backbone is networking, native data links, sensor fusion, and an electronic warfare suite built to confuse, blind, and shape the fight before a missile is ever fired. Instead of trying to carry every sensor under the sun, Gripen leans on collaboration, sharing tracks and targeting data across the formation so one pilot can act on what another sees. In a world of contested spectrum that matters, compare this to the archetype many people imagine when they hear American air power. Massive air bases pulsing with jets, the biggest radar, the longest range, the most missiles. That model is lethal, but it's also predictable and expensive. Gripen pokes at the weak joints, runway dependence, maintenance complexity, cost per flight hour, and the need for huge support tails. When a smaller nation can generate credible combat power from hidden road bases, it turns the calculus upside down. The question becomes, whose jets are actually airborne after the first barrage hits? Whose pilots are refreshed while their aircraft are refueled and rearmed in 10 minutes? Who keeps fighting on day 3? Then there's training. Gripen's operators drill what they intend to do in war. Scatter, survive, reappear, strike. The aircraft's cockpit and software are built to evolve quickly. Avionics updates, weapon integrations, and EW tweaks that can roll out faster than traditional multi-year cycles. Each update compounds the last. Over time, a small air force can punch up, presenting dilemmas far larger than its fleet count suggests. None of this means Gripen wins every scenario. Reality is messier. The United States fields world-class platforms, F-35s, F-15EXs, Super Hornets, backed by unmatched tanker fleets, AWACS, satellites, and cyber power. But the humiliation in our title isn't a scoreboard, it's a narrative shock. In exercises and evaluations across the years, pilots and planners kept running into the same surprise. This modest, affordable jet was hard to find, quick to rearm, and annoyingly effective at team tactics. The lesson wasn't that a small fighter beats America. It was that a nimble system can embarrass big assumptions. Watch the budget lines, and you see the subtext. Gripen thrives where every dollar must fight. Its operators, Sweden, the Czech Republic, Hungary, South Africa, Legacy CD, Thailand, and Brazil, buy not just an airplane, but a strategy. Keep jets flying while the other side is trying to keep up. Cost per hour, availability, and turnaround speed aren't glamorous, but they decide who shows up to the next merge. As the camera returns to that Swedish road, the scene reads differently. This is not a stunt. It's the center of gravity. Move, hide, relaunch, force the enemy to look everywhere, consume their missiles and their time. Gripen's real power is to make air superiority a scavenger hunt. And yet the biggest twist is cultural. For decades, the conversation worshipped raw performance, speed, altitude, radar size. Gripen shifts the lens to time on wing. How fast can you regenerate combat power? How quickly can you push updates? How many sorties can a small country surge before the world notices? That shift makes planners uncomfortable because it exposes brittle habits we didn't realize we had. We begin in the debrief room, where bravado evaporates and data speaks. Across exercises and evaluations, a familiar pattern emerged. When Gripen formations fought as a network, they created problems out of proportion to their numbers. Pilots described phantom tracks and deceptive timelines, an EW-laced fog where the first clear picture often belonged to the team with better coordination, not the biggest radars. Gripen exploited that edge, turning cooperative targeting and disciplined emissions into early shots and clean exits. On the ground, the jet's support concept kept landing real punches. Dispersed operations denied easy targets. 10-minute turnarounds drained the enemy's planning cycle. A single damaged runway no longer grounded a squadron. The fight simply moved down the road. For large, centralized air arms, that was the uncomfortable mirror. The humiliation wasn't defeat. It was realizing your own playbook could be broken by a cheaper, simpler one. Export campaigns amplified the tension. In competitions, Gripen seldom promised to outmuscle the heaviest American jets. Instead, it sold sovereignty and tempo. Your data stays yours. Your software can be tailored. Your jets can fly more for less. Some trials favored other platforms. Stealth, payload, or politics carried the day. But even where Gripen didn't win the contract, it often won the argument that cost, availability, and rapid upgrades were strategic weapons, not accounting footnotes. That argument is sticking. Then came the Brazil decision, pairing Gripen with a deep technology transfer plan and local industry work share. The message was clear. The fighter is a toolkit, not a black box. For smaller nations, that's powerful. It seeds homegrown capability, reduces lifetime costs, and builds the muscle memory to adapt in wartime without waiting for someone else's update cycle. Tactically, the aircraft's sweet spot is the multi-domain knife fight. Gripen can cooperate with ground-based radars, mobile SAMs, and distributed sensors, turning a region into a shifting web of threat rings and opportunities. An opponent relying on predictable tanker tracks and big fixed nodes finds itself playing whack-a-mole with a force that refuses to stand still. When Gripen units shoot and scoot, the clock becomes their ally. They're airborne again, while the other side is still retasking. None of this denies American strengths. The US brings stealth en masse, deep stocks of precision weapons, vast ISR, and the world's best refueling and battle management. But the Gripen story compels a rethink. If a small, affordable fighter can hold its own by maximizing availability, deception, and teamwork, then the old metric, who fields the most exquisite jets, no longer answers the real question. Who sustains initiative over days and weeks? That is why the phrase, "humiliated America," keeps echoing online. It isn't literal, it's a jab at complacency. The embarrassment is intellectual. Gripen reminds us that air dominance is a system contest. not a beauty pageant. Put a premium on fast rearm, fast repair, fast updates, and you gain a kind of stealth money can't buy. The enemy can't pin you down long enough to finish the job. Our final sequence returns to pilots stepping from the ladder, handing a jet to a ground crew that looks more like a pit team than a battalion. Panels open, lines click, weapons roll. Minutes later, burner blooms and the sortie counter ticks upward again. Multiply that across a week of operations, and you get the statistic no brochure can glamorize: persistence. Gripen turns persistence into pressure, pressure into options, and options into deterrence. So did a Swedish fighter truly humiliate America? Not on a battlefield scorecard. It challenged a mindset. It proved that agility, affordability, and software-driven evolution can tilt the odds for nations that can't buy their way to victory. In doing so, it forced bigger powers to re-examine assumptions about runways, sustainment, and the value of being hard to find and quick to return. That's the quiet upset at the heart of our story. The jet that looks modest on paper becomes formidable in the only statistic that matters in a long fight. Who can fly, fight, land, reload, and be back in the sky before the enemy has solved the last puzzle? The world noticed, not because the Gripen made anyone look small, but because it made a new idea look inevitable.